All right, welcome. Follow up episode probably like 23, 24,
24.
24. We have a
Almost
really
half
good
a year,
podcast.
baby.
We got a solid podcast today. Hopefully Sterling will cheer up. He's a little in a state of melancholy. Hopefully we can cheer him up and get this thing going. But today we have the Diary of CEO, Stephen Bartlett. He's on a hot streak. Him and Chris Williams, man, they're killing it.
Yeah, those
And we
Brits.
had the it's this podcast today is kind of just it's a great example of what's happening in the podcast world where these introverts, company leaders, innovators in the industry are actually coming on and having these long form conversations, and that's the trend right now. If you want your company to be relevant, if you want all the clips to fill the TikTok sphere and the reels and all the shorts, right? You have to go on these platforms. And today we have Evan Spiegel, the founder and CEO of Snapchat, on the Diary of a CEO. And it was a really solid one. He's a very different guy. I think it probably takes, I don't think it does take a guy like him who's has these different opinions, is a little bit more creative, to create a company like Snapchat and for it to succeed. And it was it was very obvious that he was that artsy person. A lot of different point of views, and I think that we have on a lot of things, but they're good point of views, and I enjoyed it. Manning sent me the link for this podcast and said I would like it, and he was right. What do you think, Sterling?
I think this one was right up Conley's alley. Like, you asked me what Conley wants in a podcast. This is the one I'm describing. Um, I I liked it a lot. It was the first good business one I've heard in a while. Um, but I like what you said. Like, this is a clear trend where all these tech CEOs are coming out and they're doing podcasts and they're uh, what do you think has changed? Was it just the political success of podcast? Why
So
did the risk reward
I
change?
well, I think it's to have any relevancy. If you want to, it's well, part of it's free marketing. Tesla had just killed the scene and shown everyone how to do it. You don't have to spend tens of millions on marketing and buy a Super Bowl ad. No, you just have to be relevant on and go through all these like the Twitter world or the TikTok world, right? If you're relevant in that world, that's free marketing. And if you can do that by talking to someone for 2 hours, I think that's a no-brainer. As long as you have enough confidence in that you're a real person and you can talk, right? I wouldn't see as a company leader, especially a social company, right? You want that relevance. Mark Zuckerberg
Mm-hmm.
out here like pleading for relevance. And all these social
Like, so I
companies,
swear I'm a human.
you're right. And like, I would say I would accredit that to why he feels Evans felt the need to go on this long form content. And I don't know, as a CEO, I think it'd be pretty fun or cool. And there's been a lot of people set a good
There's
example.
that.
Additionally, what I want to say before I forget, I was in my kitchen, I was thinking about it. I was like, is podcast becoming relevant uh, a side effect or a compound effect of short form content like TikTok? Because I think about it, in the podcast episodes and podcasts that get popular, it's all through TikToks or shorts or
They
reels.
have those clips.
Would would podcasts have ever become so relevant without TikTok? I don't think so. At least not this early. I really think the short form content, mess it up again, put podcasts on the map, which is a really like looking like if you go back in the past and you would have told me, oh, TikTok is going to make podcasts relevant, I would be like, that's a weird connection. But like it seems pretty obvious. Like I had that thought in my head. I was like, I got to get it out there. Like it's pretty interesting that I can accredit the short term content giving podcasts a platform.
I'm listening to podcasts no matter what. Like
Yeah,
TikTok
but now they're
does
mainstream.
is. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna watch the same ones every week unless I see a clip on one of the TikTok um, streams that kind of makes me go, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I think it helps like vet the podcast we listen to, but I feel like a lot more people in general are listening to podcasts and tuning in. Like the average viewership of just podcasts in general is up. I would say because of the TikTok playing the clips and whatnot.
Yeah. While you were talking, I was thinking that it's not just that there's pros to going out and doing these. There's always like those type of pros with the late night show and kind of other avenues of attention before podcasts. I think what this is saying is cancel culture is done because, in my opinion, a lot of why these CEOs weren't going and doing these was the risk outweighed the benefit. Because one wrong word and you're done. Your company has a 10% stock decrease the next day.
That's an accurate take.
So I think that's interesting. It's also interesting to see which ones come out first. I mean, my take on Zuckerberg is that he's got no he has got no values, no personality. Hey, he's in the Gavin Newsom camp where he's just like, oh, people are doing this now. I guess that's what I'm doing. But the other ones that come out, it'd be interesting to see which ones come out first and which ones don't come out at all. Because we've also been in this area where it's not necessarily meritocracy that gets you to the top. Now, maybe in tech circles it is because it's such a cutthroat world. But the Boeings and the Northrops and the Coca-Colas and Pepsis, those CEOs, I don't think can do these. I'd be interested because the same benefit happens for it would be for Coca-Cola.
Yeah, but like also like these software CEOs have like agency over like I feel like what
Oh, they're not controlled.
make yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a good
I
point.
would say that's a big difference. I don't think that the Boeings or Northrops they might
Mhm.
let them on there, but they would get canceled if they did. They would still get canceled today, like by their own boards, right?
Yeah,
If
that's a good point. They don't have super majorities over their company. It's not
yeah,
even their company. They're just running it.
yep.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Also worth noting, the title doesn't even have Gavin's name in it. It actually is a it's quite the quick
Evan
clickbait.
Spiegel.
Um, I said Gavin, yeah, Evan. Sorry. It has Zuckerberg's the thumbnail says I said no to $3 billion from Mark Zuckerberg, which is just it's just funny. It
I,
explains a
does
lot.
it? That's like not tasteful. Like I really like IRCO, like that kind of stuff. Like don't start down that slippery slope. Don't become CNN.
But so
I'll
I agree.
click on your stuff. I like your material. You don't have to
But,
bait me into it.
he's not starting to do that stuff. He always has. He's always had the most and the longest clickbait titles. Um, and I I don't like him either, but I'm sure like it's just a matter of
Well, hey,
it's
Steven, if this
obvious. Like,
gets to
that's why
you, your
it's just,
listeners don't like that shit.
yeah, I agree. His real listeners, like how was I supposed to know? I mean, it says Snapchat CEO and about 30 more words. Like I wouldn't have. I probably wouldn't have listened to this if I didn't get a link sent to me.
Yeah. All right. So one of the first things he talked about was one of the best things or I forgot how he phrased it. One of the best things that happened for his company is how did he phrase it? If I had to go back and do it again, one of the main things I'd do is I'd go public early or go to market early. Um, which immediately made me think about your app.
Hmm.
Did you like that part? Did you think about it? Why
That
don't
is
you?
one of the that's one of the reoccurring themes I get from talking to people in the field and then listening to people is one of the phrases I heard was sell before you build. Um, and
Because he
I
talked about starting and then pivoting to what Snap is today. Like that wasn't even the original idea. I thought that was I thought that was had a lot of merit to it.
Yeah. Right now the idea with our app is we kind of went from the marketplace to trying to be a B2B sales, B2B software, and sell to like transportation brokers themselves. And so the idea is we're going to start reaching out to them, and I want to sell it like a obviously talk about our idea and how we can help them to create better profits with a by enabling better customer service, right? And some logistical management. And what we want to do is offer them like a 90-day beta where it's free and have the understanding of like, hey, this is to like help you, but it's also to help us. Like from the start, it's like we need your feedback and we want to build the app. It's basically going to end up being like kind of a custom app for you for free because we're going to be considering your feedback the whole way through and fixing the app, building it based on your feedback, right? So that's the plan. Right now, uh, the only thing holding us up is we just want to get the website up and company emails so it doesn't look like it's like fake, right? But once we get that, we're gonna start reaching out to them and having those
You could have
discussions.
a website done in a day. What am I missing
Yeah.
there?
Um, yeah, I mean you can. We're just I didn't want to set the website up and then have to redo it under all the company stuff. So we got our bank account and gonna get the company
Mm.
emails and have those accounts set up. So like there's no crossover. And I got plenty of stuff to work on in the meantime. I mean it is it does seem like the common thread, like sell before you build. But we got a pretty good idea and it's just gonna be a foundation to be able to pivot off of once we do start talking to them. So we're not building we haven't spent a year on it. We're 3.5 months in, maybe 4 months in at this point. So it's um, not a whole lot of time in the grand scheme of things, but it's a good chunk, and we've made a lot of progress. It'll be I'm really excited to actually start talking to him. I made some calls and I got some contacts. Like I called some transportation companies, and I got the CTO of one and something. I got some contacts to reach out to them, and so I'm waiting. I really probably can't have the conversation, but I'm really wanting to have the demo app too. But I know take it if I'm listening to the device, it's just to go talk to them. But I don't want to like come across ill prepared on my on a first conversation. But so that's where we're at right now.
That's cool. That's cool. Have you guys talked about how quickly Uber's gonna rip off your idea
Um,
if it
well,
works?
we're not doing the marketplace anymore. We're doing directly selling to the transportation broker companies and offering them an app to connect the drivers and cargo owners. So right now, from what we've market research, is there are a couple apps that do this, but don't have good reviews, and not all the brokers and lease what do they call it? Lease brokers and independent brokers are using apps. Like a lot of them will just use their phone, and it's just like phone tag. And we've talked to drivers, and it's a mess. There's room in the market for selling this, and we're going to be able to even if we do talk to companies that have it. I think we're going to be able to Tremoth's 80/90 company, 80% of the price for 90% of the functionality, or vice versa, right? I think
Hmm.
that's very applicable to our product and what we offer. Even if we are fighting competitors, I would say those would be the accurate margins that we could shoot for.
Cool, Conley.
I spent this weekend building the so part of the app is going to be like the mobile app where the drivers, whether it's on their if it's independent haulers, they're probably on their phone, but a lot of the lease brokers will have like iPads, or we could get them to put iPads in their vehicles. It's like lease brokers, they provide vehicles for drivers. Independent brokers, drivers have their own vehicles, but the lease brokers, if they don't already have iPads or something in there, we could get them in there, and the mobile app will allow the drivers to have the app track them, and they can send messages, updates, pictures of cargo, damaged cargo, good cargo, all through the app. And then also like the drivers, they could communicate with the owner, and then also the owner could provide feedback. So it allows the brokers to have a better way to analyze the driver's performances. And then so I spent this weekend building the web interface that like the broker admin would use, right? And I got pretty good progress in that. Using a lot of the cursor AI. Uh, it's so much funner to develop when you can just fastly iterate and build stuff. It's awesome. I could probably show you what I got. I probably spent 10 hours, maybe 12 hours this weekend just on the UI stuff. Um, but it looks good, and it's crazy to think. So I put this UI together, and it's like to a pretty good point over the weekend. A year and a half ago, I built a UI, same framework, which was like C sharp laser, and we built a UI to track our chess league with like our records and who we played, and have the whole history for the software cubicle, right? And it took me, I mean, I was every single night, I was like 3 hours a night for maybe like 3 or 4 weeks. And I had a okay dashboard. It looked decent, but functionally there was some stuff wrong with it. And that took me 4 weeks. I could have probably done that in 8 hours now. It's crazy.
That's insane.
I mean, I picked up some things like I can debug a little bit faster, but I might not even need to debug now. Like it's pretty likely like if there is a build error or something, I can if I can explain the error or if I can provide the error log, it usually resolves it. And it's like just fastest iterations. I built this like I had time to have fun with it because it was so fast. So I built like I was like I spent like another 30 minutes or hour like prompting it to design a really cool login page because like I had enough time because it's that good. And so it's been fun. I think I'm a one last thing before we move back onto the podcast. Um, is I've talked to other founders, and I think this is something we mentioned, but I've recently thought it really applies to us. Is the when we think about our potential success, like it's hard to not think it's too good to be true. Like we're missing something, right? Like even if we do create the product, like how can we provide it at 90% of the cost? But I truly believe we're just the first like ones a new a new company. We are just now becoming a company, and we can adapt and we can use these new tools that these other companies aren't going to focus on using. They're not going to utilize. And even if they wanted to, honestly, I don't think a lot of the workforce is at the point mentally or like convinced that these tools can be used. I've talked to a lot of people and they just write them off because it didn't work the first time. It's like, well, if the tool didn't work the first time, you probably didn't use the tool correctly. And I think that's what's going to enable us. And when we look back, it's going to be like, oh, we were one of those companies that actually use these tools, and that's why we were successful. And like it that I want to say that's going to be the thought when we look back in 5 or 10 years if we're successful. It's we're the first ones to actually use these tools.
It's mind blowing to me that I wonder if this has ever happened before, where the most desirable um, career path just vanishes. Like, think about
Yeah,
graduating
no.
from computer science this year from an average school with like a 3.5. Uh, I don't think you're going to get a great job.
So this is a good way to connect back to podcast. I think the career field is going to vanish at some point. It's a matter of time. But there's going to be those new positions like we talked about, like the AI implementation consultant. There's going to be people like, and what I'm doing right now, who are the ones who can understand the architecture and concepts to start design these systems these custom systems so you can uh, provide custom and optimized software for these specific needs. Because right now, you look at software all the time, it's like that software sucks. You hear all the time that software sucks. That is slowly going to go away as developers can focus on specific issues and have time to address them. And so I think there's going to be still developers, there's just going to be a little bit different. But
And
what,
so many less. I mean,
yeah,
what took 500 is now going to take 50. What took 10 will now take 1. It's as it like so when I graduated petroleum engineers, no matter how stupid you were, you're going to have a great career. And just to picture that career field going poof. Now only 1 in 10 will ever really get hired or have the career they kind of set upon. And I'm just trying to put myself in these kids' shoes because these are the kids that have been like funneled toward coding. I don't think it comes naturally for most kids. I'm sorry. I don't think you have many people in your um at your work or that that just like loved coding growing up.
yeah, not, I feel like only like 10% of the kids who are like coding as kids like end up being successful. Other like 90% are just off there.
Well, yeah, and so it's like they're the kids that have had their lives kind of funneled this way by their parents to have a good career. That's been the ultimate value. Go get a good education so you can get a good job. Pointing you at computer engineering. Go. Oh wait, here's
Yeah,
AI, and everyone that's been doing this for 10 years can now do the job of 10 people, and they don't need to hire as many people. So good luck. That would
yeah.
just be devastating.
Well, I don't know. I would have the bias of like that's why you got to grow up and be social, right? Because like I think
Yeah,
I
yeah,
flourish. I'm going to in this new environment because I can talk and explain concepts, um,
yeah.
and
You
build.
can show up at a room full of truckers and explain why the app is better.
And
Yeah,
so
there
like
is a lot of that.
Stephen Bartlett asked Evan Spiegel what he wants his kids to learn, what he thinks the most important skill to learn in the new age of AI. And he said he thinks being creative will be the best industry for his kids. Um, and that's like pretty spot on. Now he is a bias to the creativity and stuff. Now I would more argue social is going to be the industry you want to succeed in. You want to be able to build
I could get
relationships
behind that more than creative.
and
Creative,
personable.
like what I see AI cranking out is creative, and they can do it like
Yeah.
this. Like if you're getting writer's block, they talked about that. You go to AI, it can write you 10 different prompts, and you can pick the one you want and go from there. Like that is the creative process right there. Like
Yeah.
AI is almost better at creativity, and I think that's counterintuitive
So
to most people.
Evan is a very artsy guy. Comes across very artsy from my perspective, and I think that's where his the obviously the answer came from.
Well,
I
and when your dad's a billionaire, you're allowed to be artsy. You know, you almost wonder if that's a more about the situation.
this dude's dad was a billionaire.
No, his kids will have the
Oh
dad as a billionaire.
yeah, yeah. And like
It's like, what is the most important thing for my kids? Creativity. Okay, well, when you're going to
yeah,
inherit billions, that
yeah,
tracks.
yeah.
You can go to liberal arts school. You can do whatever you want.
hmm the other thing was like his like company, his like three company pillars, or that wasn't wording, but it was like speaking from the heart, something and kindness. And I was like, I was curious on your take on that, Sterling. Because I was like, that is not. I mean, obviously, it's Snapchat, right? I think a lot of that takes Snapchat. But last podcast, Sterling was talking about how he could, whatever team it is, he could succeed better because of metrics and basically like raw determination, right? And then we listened to this podcast, and it was like the other end of the stick. And I was like, really, like, I was like, I Sterling's take's going to be interesting. Like, I wonder if he's going to be like, yeah, it's Snapchat. You got to think that way. Or if he's like, nah. So shoot.
I liked it. So hear me out. I don't think there's a one size fits all, and that's one of the things I would tell anyone that's I'm trying to mentor on leadership is you got to figure out what works for you. I have two employees right now that just embody kindness, and the response they get from the team is different in a good way. So there's a way to do it if it's authentic. I think if you're trying to fake it, I mean, you just got to be authentic, and it's not people can like smell it. I don't know what to mean. Like if you're a serious person, be a serious person. If you're a metrics person, be a metrics person. He said he hires for kind, or was it kind, smart, and creative? I liked it. I could work with a kind, smart, and creative team. I'll figure out the metrics for him.
Good take, Dukes. I like it. The what's interesting. So I wonder if I would be under that. If I would be, if you would
You're
consider me.
absolutely kind.
So we had two new hires at our site this month. Or in the first day, I was talking to them. I was like, "Yeah, like let me know if you guys want to go out to lunch." And they're like, "Yeah, you want to go today?" And I was like, "Sure." And we were out to lunch with them. And I've said this before, but my project manager is like, it's you. He's the same personality, everything. Um, and we're out at lunch, and they're like, "Oh, he's very serious. He's like intimidating." I'm like, he's putting on a front. He's fine. I was like, he's like really
He's a big
nice.
old
He's
stop.
perfectly fine. Like, don't be intimidated by him. I was like, I'm wondering, like, is that like, are these the same? Is this the same structure that your team is?
It might be. I don't know. I still feel because you got to remember. So I came from Palmdale. My mentor was a very serious dude, very disciplined, very accountability focused, and I came into this team whose pillars were the opposite. And I think it was a really good balance because I came in and I held my ground at like 50% of what Palmdale was, which I thought was a good compromise. They were like, whoa, this guy, he means it. And so it was a good balance. You know, I still to this day, sometimes I'm the bad guy and Justice is the good guy. Sometimes, I mean, to his credit, he could be the tough one too. So it really depends on who you are as a person, I think. I think you could do it a million different ways. Mine's is metrics, especially with large teams. Now, if everything breaks into small teams because AI does 90% of the work and it's just 10 people wrangling the AIs, maybe my way doesn't work anymore. I don't know. What I did really like is he talked about um he was talking about what he wants his kids to do when he's older, and he kind of just said, you know, creative. And you know, I don't agree with the creative part. That's not me, but I like the idea of instead of pushing them towards a career, pushing towards like sports to handle hard problems and to be social and you know to give them those key because I don't this future is going to be weird and good luck predicting it. So I just give them those basic skills that can translate to whatever.
Yeah, no, in the podcast, granted, it's hard to get a read on a podcast or just listen to one discussion. He came off as a great family man, great dad. That was
Did
kind of cool to see.
he did?
It
I
was
believed
cool.
it.
CEO at that level at least come off that way. Like he's like,
I
uh,
believed it. I would work for him based off that podcast.
yeah, I would love like one of like I'll daydream about it, but like having my own company and my like my kid be able to come in for lunch and stay the afternoon and just kind of like observe and like have fun and like not like obviously dream world, but like I would love to have them sit in conversations or whatnot. Kind of like what Elon does with X, like when they're at the White House and stuff. Like that's so cool. Like if I could put myself in shoes to do that, like that's the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be really cool to give your son or daughter a business to pass along all the skills. You got to be careful though, because
Yeah. I don't.
A lot
I
of times
like
it doesn't work.
wait, I don't know if I've really thought like giving it to them. I haven't even got to that point. I don't. That's a it's a whole can of worms. I don't think that ever really works out too well.
It's just something, and I think you'll recognize it after you become a dad. But there's something about making something to give to your kids to carry on that legacy word.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't want to come off as ignorant. I understand that and the why it's so common and yeah, I'd probably do it. But
I didn't mean to call you
I mean,
ignorant. I don't think you know. I don't think you can know. It's one of those things like it's how your mind changes with kids. It's just different. I didn't know. Don't
so
please don't take that the wrong way.
if you no, you're good. If you built a company got a $200 million exit, have you ever thought about this and like what would you want to leave for your kids money wise monetization? Well, like, would you leave any? Do you create a strict structure of how you can unlock it? Because the ones I have not, I don't know if I've witnessed one that they've had 100,000 given to them each year, and I've known people that this is the case, and they just rot away their 20s. That's for sure. If they find anything successful down the road or a family, it's almost inevitable they don't find a family.
Mm.
Like, I, what do you do with that? Have you thought about that? I've thought about it, and I know it's going to be almost impossible to do what I think is probably right, and I'd be fighting my wife over not leaving millions for the kids.
But what's right? What have you figured out?
Um, I think it has to be some type of strict incentive structure. Um, whether that's and it it can't be just like coasting through the company. I don't even if if I even think external like outside like if I built a company. Well, I guess at this point I'd sold it. Um, this is a point where I would want to try to do metrics, right? I don't know like strict let's just say um I would say graduate with a certain grade level. I would put that in there. I not that I think school's everything, but I think that shows a lot. Shows a lot of dedication, ability to persevere. And I think if you're at like a good college, I don't know how much you can like pay your way through it, right? Like I think you'd actually have to learn it. Um, and so
Everything's so everything's so treacherous in that scenario though, because when you're doing it to make millions, it's different. You're not doing it, for your livelihood. You're not doing it because you care, you're interested. You're doing it because there's this giant pot of gold at the end. I think that's better than just handing them
yeah.
$20 million when they're 19. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. I haven't put much thought into it because I don't. That's not what I fantasize about. Um, I don't know.
I mean, it's like it seems obvious to me that that um isn't the way to create prosperous generations of families is by
I think I got it. Here's my off the cuff answer: is I would buy a bunch of land and put a bunch of houses on it and put all that money into that land. And you want to live with the family on that land all together. You can. No cash, right? Every other part of your life, you're gonna have to go out and earn. But you'll always have this. The family will always have this place where they can be together and they can. I think land is a great way to store wealth. I think probably one of the best ways to store wealth too. So
so you leave nothing for them.
I'd
Uh,
leave them $1 billion worth of land and houses, and I don't know if that's buying a mountain or an island.
whatever the amount
I
is.
think that'd be really cool, and I don't think there's many families in the future that are gonna have that opportunity. I see, dude. You've bought a house before? The land, if you want a house with half an acre, it's gonna double the price of that house. If you want a lot that you can fit 3 generations of a family on, that's generational wealth. Like that's 10 acres. That's depending on where you're at. That's a lot of money.
On this topic, it's something that stuck around from the Chris Williams and Joe Rogan podcasts. Is Chris mentioned that the most common name in the NBA is Christopher or Chris, and he's like the first thing is like, oh, it's Chris, right? They credit it to Chris being a middle class name. It's that name is mostly middle class males that have the name Chris, and it's
Okay.
like you're most likely to make it to the NBA coming out of the middle class, where you have support, but you have a determination to work. Um,
Really?
yeah, and he said the exceptions are LeBron James that come out of complete poverty, and that is the exception rather
How
than
old is this study though? Because every other draft pick right now is an NBA kid's son. I mean, this is like, I mean, I think the NBA is becoming a richer and richer sport.
I don't know if it was strictly done on this 2025 draft class.
You got Ron Harper Jr., you got Jason Richardson Jr., you got who else? Last year was Bronny.
NBA.
Steph's an NBA's kid.
But I mean, these are like
I just,
predominant.
I know, I know. It's
Yeah.
just, you, I don't know where we came to that, but I would question their math. Like Chris is the most popular name. If you adjust it to how popular the name is that really an outlier?
I don't know. I
If
have to
out of
look.
8 billion people, 100,000 of them named Chris, and one of them's named Sterling, and one Sterling makes it to the NBA, I would say it's more likely to be named Sterling. You know
Maybe
what I mean?
the case.
Even though there's 10 Chris's in the NBA, you just gotta watch your math there. You gotta
Yeah,
normalize it.
I didn't
Metrics,
do
baby.
I didn't do the math, but I don't know if the math is if it's a scenario you're saying, then yeah, sure. But if it's
Maybe.
not the scenario you're saying, then no.
I don't think so.
No, I have the data in front of me.
I don't think it
I
doesn't
did
pass my sniff test.
what I did look up doesn't look great for my boat, so I'm not even gonna say it.
It's all right. The
No, I'll
so
say it
you
says
know what? No,
yeah.
I think that gut check that like does it pass your intuition? Man, that's going to be valuable in this world of AI and all these things. I just think that's going to be an underrated talent. Gut checks. How critical a thinker you are.
Well, it doesn't matter how critical a thinker you are or those gut checks if you cannot verbalize and communicate what you're thinking, right? Because you just sound crazy if you're not, right?
Yeah,
Like you're the boy
you
who
sound
cried.
like you said verbalize.
That sounds like it's a word. I would stick with that. It's the opposite of internalize.
This is fun. This is fun. Um,
Verbalize. Express in words, especially by speaking out loud.
yeah, okay.
That's
Everything's
two words up to you,
everything's a
buddy.
word on
That's
Google.
two words up to you. That is exactly how I use the word, so you can suck it.
Oh my gosh. Verbalize. Okay. It's funny because we do this all the time, me and Leslie. Because she has all these like
Verbalize.
hillbilly words. And I'm like, there's no way that's a word. And yeah, you type it in Google, yeah, heckles. The back when the dog's hair stands up. Okay, well, so Google thinks it's a word. That doesn't mean it's a word.
That's the sniff test. If Google has the
No,
word, it is the word.
no.
If it matches the definition directly, then yes. But if it's like
Because
a
I
if
go on
it's like a
Wikipedia
match, then
with
no.
my hillbilly butt and type in heckles and give it a little definition, and then Google will find it.
Um, no.
No, we're gonna disagree on that one. Hey, so he did this. So I'll
You
flip
used
it
the
back.
word meritocracy once, and if we go back, you use it wrong.
Meritocracy? How?
Yeah. Is what is it? Is it's government control, right? And the way you use it, it was not referring to government.
No, meritocracy is a system based on merit, where the hierarchy is determined by merit.
Let's Google
Anyways,
it.
you Google it. Google that shit, Jamie.
That would make sense, based on the how you talk.
Speaking of hierarchy, I'll bring us back. I'll bring us back. This is fun though. Um, he talked a lot about not having groups without hierarchy. And boy, when you said I think about what I'd do if I had this big company and hand it down. I think what I do if I could just snap my fingers and change these big corporations. I would love to try that. Like, I really like the idea that you have these teams that just work toward a common goal. There's no titles. Like, you have to be careful about responsibilities. Like, who's going to make those certain decisions? Who's going to be the comms? Who's going to do this and that? And if everyone's just doing what they want, there's no organization to it, then you're going to have stuff falls through the cracks. You're going to have disagreements. But I could definitely see if you put the right individuals, and maybe that's what it comes down to. Like, there's the best case for the average workforce, and then there's the best case for if
Yeah.
I'm Snapchat and I get to pick the best 5 software engineers in the world, how to do it. But I don't know. I think we in my team could pull off a less hierarchical structure. Um, but like I really like the no titles thing. Like I hate titles. People that like titles, we don't mesh. Do you like titles? Are you a title chaser?
And like I think um they can be used as a tool. Uh there has to be a way. I think if you go to a company and they say, "Hey, you're a software engineer." That's your title for 20 years. That's your title for 5 years. Let's say 5 years. You get out of college, you're a software engineer from year 1 to year 5. It's not going to look great on a resume. So for them not having titles as software 1, 2 or 3 or senior dev, you would be missing out on an ability to market yourself without titles. And that like as far as like a external facing thing, I think it's kind of pro business, pro company and not pro individuals because it kind of puts you in a box a little bit. It tells you off. But as far as internally with the team, I I'm cool with no titles. It's obvious what the roles people do.
Yeah, I don't like the motivation behind title chasing. I If you go and get a certificate in PMP, you're not on my team. I don't because the only people that do that are people that chase titles. They're like, I gotta go do this to get this title, and then I'll do this, and then I'll be able to boss around this person. I don't want that person on my team. There's a little rant about titles. I liked it. I liked what he was saying. But
Yeah,
it's also easy to say when you're CEO.
true. I at my company, guess how many levels it is to get to the partners and founders. Partners or founders, but the partners. There's like I think 12
So
partners.
entry level all the way up to founder.
Yeah, levels.
How many people are in your company?
2,500
Middle, yeah, frontline, 8.
currently. It's 3. It's either
Whoa!
4, depending on if your project manager is a director or not. So I have a team lead. My team lead reports to project manager, and that project manager reports to the board of directors. And so right now my project manager is a director, and that board of directors reports to the partners,
Wow. So wait, team lead, project manager,
directors, partners,
director, partners.
are
So a
founders. And,
director has how many project managers?
it's I think so. There's 52 directors, and they're like kind of a board of directors, and so they get uh I think various project managers to kind of like keep an eye on, check in on. Um, so like my project manager went to some other sites to go like do site visits because he's a director.
But so like how many tree up to team lead? Team leader has an average of how many employees?
Yeah, so man, teams go from like 1 to at the most we had
It's
11.
average.
Uh,
Average.
Average is probably a 3-person team.
Okay, so 3 people go to one
Yeah,
team lead.
4.
One team lead goes to how many? How many team leads
Uh,
is under a product manager?
man, probably 4 or 5 again. There's just so many variants in site size, but yeah, probably 4 or 5.
That means a director has 100 product managers.
No, we only have how many
You said
sites?
25,000 people?
2,500.
500 people.
That's a big difference.
So each director has 50 people underneath them. Divide by 3, divide by 5. So that every director has 3 product managers. Every product manager has 5 team leads, and every team lead has 3 people. That's a weird org.
Flat.
It's flat, and it's like, what did I do? It's like you got a ton of management.
I mean, I don't know what the team lead size average
It's
out.
like 1-to-1 almost. You have 3 people per team, and then you have a team lead. I guess they're shared.
Well, so like there's smaller sites that have like 8 people on it, and the project manager really, and those they probably don't have team leads. So like that kind of skews it, right? So like they would like probably technically have team leads just over certain areas. I don't know. It's probably more peer to peer. I haven't been on a small site like that, but I know there's sites that have like 8 people on it, and the project manager is basically a team lead at that point, right? But my site has like 47. And so I have the biggest team, or I used to be on the biggest teams like 11. And there's a team with like one, there's a team with two, there's a team with six. There's a lot of variance in size, but yeah, in general, that's the structure.
So he talked about values during hiring. If someone asks you what your values are during an interview, what would you say?
I'm an interviewee.
Yeah,
I'm getting
you're
interviewed.
trying to answer the question.
Um, I would say I value hard work and team building.
Is that what you'd say, or is that what you believe?
So I believe. I think those two things are what drive me. I I like to. I couldn't not give it my full effort. Like I'm gun ho on this side project, building this new app and stuff. And when I'm in work, I'm in work mode, and that's all I care about.
I really liked how he said, like, what's the best way to establish a culture? He said you hire it. And he talked about like sharing your values during the interview process to one, make sure you're selecting people that align to it, and discouraging people that don't, which I don't know how much you can discourage someone from taking a job. But also, you're kind of setting the stage that our values are important enough for us to ask about them.
How would you answer that?
I don't know. I thought it was a good question because it would honestly, it'd be one of the ones that I have to kind of just sit there for 30 seconds and think about. What do I value?
I feel like you value like um quality of like production. Like what is our work? What are we contributing to?
Yeah, yeah,
I,
I think
I
that's pretty close. I was gonna say like I value having a product I'm proud of. I value doing the best I can, not good enough. Those are the two things.
kind of coincide with each other. Look at that word.
Verbalize.
Um, Anywho, no, I
But so, who does the hiring at your job?
um, it is so in our internal kind of like software management for like timesheets and stuff like that. You can put like preferences and like you can like want to help. You can ask to help with hiring. It typically only goes to experienced people, or no, it only goes to experienced people, architects or project managers for the most part. I think all the directors um, are involved in uh, some extent of hiring, um, and so it's really it's volunteer based, but at a certain experience level.
I had thought like, how many of these CEOs have told us the most important thing you can do is hire? Like
Yeah, that's
talent.
I from what I've heard in the books, the audiobooks, the podcast is one of the most important job in some people's wording is of a founder is to hire.
To build the right team.
Yeah.
But so let's say you buy into that. How many companies actually put their best talent on hiring? We don't. The most talented person at my job is not the one going to interviews. Matter of fact, the people that have the most talent kind of look at interviews as a distraction,
So
right? We don't want to bug him for 2 hours.
I'm excited to get the opportunity at some point to do interviews.
I've never been a part of them, and I've never I've
Really?
always thought talent was
Really?
important.
You've never been a part of an interview?
No, you give it to the person that doesn't do much. I'm telling you, and this corporation isn't alone.
Dudes, you're
You
not
like
involved in the hiring of your team? Who is the
So back in Palmdale in production, it was like a 900 person thing, and we were hiring all day, every day. Because we'd chew them out as fast as we could bring them in. So you always had that manager that got the crap jobs. That just constantly went to interviews because he couldn't perform.
So I mean, like that could be a little bit different because, like, if you are accepting at a high rate, then you probably aren't shooing away the good people. So,
Mm.
like, if you have a quota of how
That was
many
a bit
people,
of a meat grinder. But like, let's say right now, so the homeroom hires them. Well, you have these matrix organizations. I run the program side. There's supposed to be a homeroom that hires all the MEs for the site, all the double E's for the site. They do all the hiring.
yeah, I would start asking to be involved in those, man. I don't know if that's attainable, but I think I would love the hiring process, like
Yeah.
to be a part of that. Like, I I've I've spent like time interview questions because I think that they need reworked. Just like throwing like I sometimes when I listen to founders, one of my favorite questions is, "What is your favorite interview question?" And those are always like they get me thinking, and I love that question to founders and CEOs. Because it shows like
So you and Corinne were together your whole freaking life. So this doesn't really apply to you, but it's like the people that are good at dating, you know, like this hiring process. I just wonder. Part of me wonders, like, yes, talent is one of the most important things. I completely agree on that. Can you get a hiring process that gets you the highest talent? Like, can you draft the right quarterback? And I know these kind of sports questions get lost on you sometimes, but half of the quarterbacks they draft, I'm sorry, it seems like you don't give a shit about sports. Did you watch any of the
yeah,
games
I
this
don't
weekend?
understand the analogy.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm
they
sorry.
can't ever seem to find the best quarterback and draft him highest.
Right. It's like over 50% are misses. But it's really important because it's the most valuable position. Like it'll make your team worth $1 billion. Like the Chiefs are worth $1 billion more because they have Patrick Mahomes. So you got this decision that's worth potentially $1 billion, and they miss it 50% of the time.
Yeah, but like that's like you're dealing with slim percentages. I think the range for hiring, like, you don't have to get the one out of a million quarterback, right? You just have to get the one out of a lot less, a lot smaller number. There you go. Don't want to say less big because you got mad.
Right. I mean, there's a bell curve, and if you're above average, that's doing good right there. But I'm curious because I've never done it. I'm not convinced that putting in all those resources will net you a huge difference in skill brought in.
Well, part of it, right, is like how many teams are set up like yours where the best people aren't interviewing. It sounds like it could be a lot higher number than I ever would have guessed.
Yeah. I
I
just wonder if it's more efficient to bring people in and get rid of the people that don't work.
it
Do it that
takes
way.
seems like
Have
it
like a
takes so long
higher
to
throughput process.
I mean if you have a hiring issue, I don't see why you couldn't fly someone out for a day perspective interview. That's way cheaper than hiring someone and firing them. If they're bad enough to fire, that means you wasted all your money.
Yeah, I don't it's hard to argue, and I see like when I'm thinking about my team, the most important thing is talent. But then you have a deadline in a week, and you got one guy that you know can make it. Do you pull him off of that to go to an interview? You don't. I see that decision time and time and time again, and I don't think there's many companies that are different than that. But if you're making long term decisions, you do. I don't think you're wrong if you think they can make a difference.
I mean, I think the one of the most desired skills and most like sought after ability of these CEOs and founders is to identify compound effects and to be able to find the solution for the really long term, the best long term and compound uh, solution. And in your scenario, like if you identify that if pulling these people off the task at whatever rate would lead to better hires, like I think that seems inevitable. Like that seems obvious to be a better decision. I mean, I get it would be a hard one to make, right? But if
What? So, like, how much a difference do you think you could make hire?
I
Let's say you had to
it might
hire
be a
10
huge
people
difference. Um,
and you just let anybody do it, and they got 5 right and 5 wrong. What would Conley do? What would your batting average be?
I talk to people. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but there's been some people I'm like, who that? Like, I want to see the documentation. I want to see the video recordings of how this interview went. Like maybe we need to start recording these interviews. They're online. Record them. If this person ends up getting fired, let's go look at the tape. What did we do wrong? What did we not notice? Or were we just being ignorant on that interview? Because I would be really surprised in some scenarios that I couldn't watch a replay and be like, no way they lasted more than a year. It's like I think I could be five for five. I would probably have a maybe the issue is they just need to hire more people. And I don't know the ratio they need to hire at. And so I did talk to the guy who interviewed me once I got on, and he said he approved 20% of the interviewers or of the interviewees, and I would assume close to that 20% got the offer, which seems pretty low. So they need to vet that first window maybe a little bit better. I don't know, man. That
It's just people are tricky because everyone's different in an interview, right? You
yeah.
put on a face.
There's some like technical ability of people I've talked to. I'm like, how did they answer those questions? Like I I don't want to criticize my company too much because I think they do a lot of things right and they probably do the interview process right, but because they're happy with their turnover rate, they say it's below the percentage they want, and it seems really high. It's like close to 20%, and they're like it's still below industry average, so we're okay with it. And it seems like there's a lot of scenarios where they do want that high turnover. It's very interesting.
Are they
Um,
counting people they fire,
in
or is
turnover,
this
that is
people that
turnover.
just leave?
I don't know. I would assume it's both. I think that would be
Me
like
too. So to me, it would matter why they're leaving. But I mean, it, I almost look at software companies like they're cheating. If you have high attrition in a software company, what are you doing? You have so many perks. That job is so cush. You can't keep people. That's sad.
it's like the highest industry. I think a lot of it's credited to job hopping.
They just bounce around to jobs up and up
But
and up.
yeah, it says the average employer in the tech industry is 13 or average turnover is 13.2%. Turnover rates can be
Year
higher.
over year.
Embedded softwares is 21%. Yeah.
So you got to pay people more.
Yeah. No, it's honestly those are the problems I want to be working on.
What would you look for? How would you go about hiring somebody? I'm curious.
I think well, so one of my biggest gripes, probably my main gripe about the current hiring process is there's like a list of like probably like 10 or 15 technical or logical questions they ask interviewers, and they're all on the internet. So like there's one person I talked to, they in the interview they kept on telling the person like, "Oh, I know this one. I know this one." They got all the way through them and they had to make up one. That shouldn't be a thing. Just have if they told me to interview someone and they said come up with it. And I said, okay. And like, obviously, I was like, I had to explain so it gets vetted that I'm not just winging it, right? I would like to say, hey, this was the fixed request I got last week. What like maybe give them some context or whatever, but how do we go about it?
That's a lot of labor. I mean, you got to come up with those scenarios per interview,
You
right?
could, I mean, you could probably burn through the same one for a month before it hits the internet, like maybe a week, or like you go through 10 interviews in a week or 5 interviews in a week, and that's one before it hits the internet,
Yeah.
if that.
We did something similar when we hired our math guy. It was an important hire to us. We're like, hey, let's show him our Excel sheet, ask him how he'd fix it, type of thing. How can he make it more efficient? So I think you can do that on a small scale. I just it's just this problem is really interesting to me because I agree with the priority, but I am skeptical of how much you can tip the scales a large number.
It's uh, one day I'm gonna figure out once I'm not looking from the outside in, and I hate to comment on something I haven't been a part of, because I feel like I there's a lot of
You
things that
should
some
ask your manager if you can be in the next interview. I'm curious. I've been in a couple on the hiring side. Sat in, asked some questions, and it's painful. Like it sucks.
well, if the guy I talked to 20% acceptance rate, that is rough.
And you gotta like because they have legal and HR, you have to ask standard questions and you have to write down what they said and what you liked about what they said, what you didn't like. And you're spending half the interview just trying to keep up with your notes, and then you got to go type it up afterwards. So every
Well,
part of it
at
sucks.
this point, you need to buy AI software that can document that stuff for you because you shouldn't be having to do that in an interview.
I
This day and
can
age.
AI do the interview for me? I mean, come on.
It would be like an AI agent interviewing an AI agent.
That's where we're going.
Oh shoot. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's not a hard problem, but I that's something I'm passionate about. I'd love to do.
So like, let's say it's the most important thing for all these Fortune 100 companies worth trillions of dollars, right? And you could have the best competitive advantage if you get the best hiring person out there. Why isn't hiring a career path? Why don't say HR because no rock star goes to HR school and just to be the best hire ever.
I think maybe that's honestly you need more. I don't know. If it's 20% acceptance rate of interviews, I feel like that's too low. But
Like, why doesn't Snapchat? Why isn't their highest salary on their roster? If talent is the most important thing, their hiring manager or their hiring director or
so,
whoever that is.
what is the number? You go ahead. I gotta find this percentage.
It just it was really interesting on the podcast. It made me think like, okay, there's consensus. Hiring is one of the most important things you can do, but the resources that go to it don't match that statement. And I guarantee you look at Snapchat, it's no different. I guarantee his highest salary isn't his hiring man. It's
Well,
just
yeah,
PhD in AI technology, probably. And he's not working on how to hire. But if you figure it out, we can have a hiring consultant firm and we can hire for these guys. We can promise a 40% hit rate. We can double it.
yeah. Maybe that's an angle. I mean, the people who are passionate about topics typically are the most successful. So maybe that's the avenue. We'll see how I do interviewing people. I don't know if we have much more to. Do you have any other notes on the podcast?
No, my head's still spinning on this hiring thing. I think there's something there.
I mean, at that point, it's just like a recruiting company, right? That's what a lot of people outsource to.
Yeah,
I
but
don't.
every part of that process sucks ass. The hiring part sucks ass.
You know
The
what I
interviewing
would.
part sucks ass. The application part sucks ass. Every part sucks. But it's the most important thing ever.
I would like to. I would like to. It might be really hard today, but like the in person aspect, like not even going to a job fair, but a company hosting their own. Someone who shows up to that, it tells me something about them. I don't. I think you're gonna get a lot of bad apples, but I think if you really wanted a job at Andrew, let's say for example, and they had a hiring fair, or a job fair in Nashville, you're driving there without a question. If it's in St. Louis, but the job like the job fair is in St. Louis, but it's Andrew specific, um, limited number of like people who got the resume vetted are accepted there. You're driving 5 6 hours for that, whatever, if you want it bad enough. And I think I don't know, maybe it's the more social people, kind of like us. But the promise of getting face to face time with someone there, um, as someone, if you're looking for a job and you get any whiff of that's really getting your foot in the door is face to face time. Um, I think that could attract a lot of good talent, but I don't know how um, applicable that is today. Like, are you going to get maybe the issue with that is you don't get enough people, and that's why they aren't doing it.
And you can have a better time with the internet, even though you'll miss a 95%.
But I would be surprised. I mean, how much would it cost just to rent out a hall and have your have a team show up for the afternoon? Maybe because I guess you're
What I
paying.
always thought is like, I I want to work for Andrew. Why can't I get like? And let me be cocky here for a second. I'm a talent you want on your team, right? For my age, my experience, I'm someone you want on your team. Why can't I hand my resume to somebody and say, where do I fit on that team? And have someone go place it. Like, why do I have to constantly search on the internet every weekend to see if there's a job that perfectly lines up to what I want and what they need?
Have you tried to do that? You're like
Um,
direct
I've tried. It's
messaging.
never been my top priority, but that's the thing. Like, if top talent is a priority for your company, identify it and find a spot for them. It's not that hard. Why isn't it that simple?
Put them on a what is it, waiver wire to pick up? Is that what it's
Yeah,
called? Is that a
yeah.
sports reference? Suck it. Well, I've listened to you guys play or Madden franchise too many times. Nerds. Oh my god. That's funny.
That's funny. The programmer calling the sports guy nerd. That's funny.
That's
um,
calling the rocket guy a nerd. Yeah.
not saying I'm not one. Um, he talked about making people present ideas on the first day, and it made me really
That's great.
jealous
Yeah.
of being at
It's
a
cool.
company that like wants to evolve, wants to constantly be doing stuff better. All the companies I've been on is like, we have this product, we're going to build this product for the next 25 years. Yeah, we can we can improve it where the dollars make sense, but no one's trying to revolutionize weapons every single day. No one's taking those big risks. It made me really jealous of software companies. I think they have a lot of advantages. That's maybe the one I'm most jealous of.
Let's see how long they last.
Because Snapchat is like, okay, Facebook copied my shit. Now I'm going to go make smart glasses, right? That's cool. It's just really cool.
Yeah. I love it's like I guess it is business talk. I mean when people say business talk, I feel like I think money, but this is business talk. Love
Yeah.
it.
Dude, here's a note I had. I don't know what I was thinking. I was cleaning the garage when I was listening to this. Best way to have a good idea is have a great idea. I think it was have a lot of ideas. I think if I remember it correctly, I don't know why I typed that, but best way to have a good idea is have a lot of ideas, which makes
Yeah.
sense. Just throw a bunch
Well,
at the
because
wall, see
I
what
think in
sticks.
that discussion that he was saying like, well, I want a million ideas and 10 of them will hit. You know, I think that's what he mentioned. So that's probably interesting translation on your part.
But another one I really liked: less focus on making the right decision and more focus on fixing the bad ones. Oh, do I love that? Like, make decisions fast, but if you hire the wrong person, freaking get rid of them, right? And companies now suck at getting rid of bad decisions. You promote the wrong person, unpromote them. They were great at their last job. That's why you promoted them. They're just not good at this one.
That's quite a take, man. I don't think I've ever heard or seen of that. So we're
It's
getting deep.
there's a business theory. Sorry for the smart person that I'm not crediting that came up with it, but it's a paradox where everyone's promoted to the level at which they can't perform. Because if you're really good at your current job, you're getting promoted. If you're really good at your current job, you're getting promoted up until the point where you're not good enough for that job and you stop getting promoted. But
So, yeah, have you? You're not in the hiring process. Are you in the firing process?
I'm in the a person on my team isn't performing, I need you to fix it process. But they aren't great at that.
Yeah.
Because here's how it's supposed to be done, right? You identify someone's not performing. All right, let's work with them. Let's try to help them perform. Okay, they're still not performing. Okay, here's your ultimatum. You got to do this. These are our expectations. If you don't do this, okay, now you're on a performance improvement plan. Okay, now you're terminated. And all that takes 9 months. And it doesn't just take 9 months. It takes 9 months of putting extra effort into that person to prove they're not going to make it, and
Now,
then
you want to
documenting it the whole way.
talk about making a hard decision to allocate resources to, like the best resources to. Man, do we spend time on those bad apples?
Yeah.
How many resources are spent trying to fix a bad apple?
So
That's
it's a
that
really
one's obvious.
here's a similar
Yeah, I need to
conversation,
start logging my hours on that
right?
at work.
Mom
And
and
this
I, or
this year
mom
we
and
spent $10,000 helping to get someone inevitably fired.
mom and dad were here this week, and they're talking about the deporting all the criminals to El Salvador prison, all the illegal immigrants, and talking about how stupid the judge was that blocked it. And then I was like, yeah, it'd be nice to get rid of them, but
And
you still need due process, right? That's kind of the most American thing we have. You're innocent until proven guilty. And you kind of sacrifice the overall good of getting rid of all the people in order to prevent having one innocent person spend the next 20 years in a Salvadoran prison. Um, and then it came up in All In. Did you listen to last All In?
yeah, no, that's exactly what they said.
And Chamath was on the other side. And so I I did not agree with Chamath in that argument, but I think he's right in the business aspect. Here, fire those 250 people. You might mistakenly fire 5 gems in the rough, but I think it's a net good for your business.
Agree, man.
I just don't think it's a net good for America.
You turn out, if you're bad enough to be on the radar, and it's not like a personal issue or like something going on externally. Like if you're bad enough to be on the radar and it's not that, like even if you do turn out, like you can't turn out to be that good. Like I don't know. Maybe I just haven't been along around enough to witness it. There's like one scenario I can probably think of, but even in that case, like it was within a couple months it was turned around and we're good. But like
The turnaround stories are rare, but if that becomes the culture, then and I can hire people without all that process, then you get people abusing it on the other side.
yeah, I think I'm curious of like could the hiring structure change to be like it'd be more common like our company only um hires for 3 months. Like you're on a 3 month contract, 3 month rookie contract or practice squad. You're on
I
practice
think,
squad. You know what
yeah,
that means? Practice squad. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's still my favorite idea.
That's a good sports reference.
Great one.
So I feel like that no like realistically though I feel like that would be a decent this like approach to solve the issue.
But so Manning had that, right? He was on that the first 6 months. He gets no PTO. He has to show up and all that, and that's essentially why they do it. I remember how much that sucked for Manning.
Yeah,
But
that's
I mean, maybe it's better for the company.
but when you're at like the top tier companies, right? Like I feel like man, if someone is good enough to where they're like, screw this after a month, then you could adapt, right? If they
Hmm.
are, you'd be like, okay, we can give you PTO. Like, and I think that happens under the sheet anyways. Like, if you're really good, that team lead or project manager is going to be like, okay, yeah, like you're good, you're fine,
Hmm.
you're gonna die. But if you've been struggling those first 2 months and start asking for PTO, it's like, yeah, sure, but you're not going to come back after three.
Yeah.
You know, I that seems like that maybe that's the avenue to go. Standardize that hiring practice more.
The next one I had was you can't be a brilliant jerk. Loved it. Love this one. There's certain people out there that are you want to call them brilliant, but they can't figure out EQ. You're not brilliant if you're book smart and you're a total jerk or you're unsocial. I'm sorry, you can't be both there. If you were really brilliant, you'd figure it out.
Yeah, it's
The next one I had was he talked about working from home, working at the beginning of the pandemic, but it didn't work 3 years in. And I liked it. I like thinking of it that way. Like you've built this team, they have the culture. There's the trust that you build being, in the office together for years and years and years. If you want to go, everyone goes virtual for 6 months, you still have that, but it's going to degrade over time. So,
so. What if like what if a software company like this? What if Snapchat was like, okay, we have to go back in office, but what if like for a month out of every year, or like 2 months, or like the summer?
mhm.
I wonder if that like has any merit or could be. I mean, obviously, it hasn't been applied anywhere that I've heard of. If the idea is like we need to have some type of internal in person to build these relationships to be reliable on each other, but people really want to be remote. I mean, I guess that's probably what like the companies that do hybrid, though, where it's like some days in office. I guess that's probably better. That's a better option because
It's a weird contrarian thing because they also are the ones that like take as much PTO as you want, unlimited PTO. And I like that idea. But like I don't know how it meshes with bringing everyone back to the office.
so from what I've heard or seen is people who have that eliminated, it's monitored and uh, not capped, but once you pass a certain limit, it's like very frowned upon. So those are kind of like a
I wonder
nice.
if you could fire somebody if they had unlimited PTO and they just took it. Like
Uh,
I signed up for
if
the
you're
job
for
with
profit, like I feel like you can for profit companies can like fire for like whatever they want.
no, you got wrongful termination, right? You can't fire on the basis of any discrimination. Essentially, you have to have a valid reason to fire somebody now, which I don't know is good. But
Yeah. All right.
um
Any last thoughts here?
I do. I have some more. Okay. I'm gonna keep going.
All right. Deal.
So
I felt like we got to a point of circles there, but
no, I got two more. Buy with me, okay?
I got time. I was just
Two good ones.
keep going.
He talked about as a CEO, he likes walking around his team, but he told the story about how someone would show him a presentation and he'd be like, "This presentation will get to you in about 6 weeks, but I can show you what we got now." You know, and boy, did that resonate with me. I hate this shit. You have good ideas, or you have good news or bad news. It takes so long to get up the chain because everyone's got to review it. Everyone's got to ask for PowerPoint tweaks. And, I think it's the biggest when you're talking about having a flat hierarchy, making it up the chain fast and making decisions fast, I think is a key strategy. And boy, do these corporations suck at it. Oh my God.
Um, that is one thing. Well, I got three notes on that. Hopefully, I remember them all.
You sure you have time?
Uh, that is one thing when my architect or lead or PM walks by and I have a discussion. I'm like, I'm so glad I had that. That just progressed me X hours or however long. Like that interaction is priceless, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you got to be interactive,
Yep.
spontaneous, checking in, whatever level. Architect, I missed one. So 5 or 6 layers. Architects aren't on every site, but we do have an architect in between the team lead and PM. Um,
But those
the,
guys are valuable.
the architect is they have a different duty. They report to the team lead, but like or they report to the PM, but the team leads kind of report just to the PM, and then the architects just for whatever technical issues that need to be. They don't report to the no one reports to the architect really, other than it's like, hey, work with him on that, right?
It's like
So
a chief.
it is a layer, but it's not like it's kind of like beside the PM.
Mhm.
That is a another. And then the last thing was what? How many layers till you get to the CEO?
And how
Or
quickly does information go up and down? I'm
well,
okay if
I
you
was
have
asking
20
you how many
layers.
layers in your scenario. How many layers you got?
It's not as much as you think, but it's just because like the pyramid, if you know, going from 8 to 9 layers and you have 15-person teams, that's like another 10,000 people. You know what I mean? And I would say the average team is like 10 to 15 people, which I think is a good size. But um, there's like 8 or 9.
Gotcha.
There's usually your front line, your your level 3, your director 1, director 2, vice president, usually goes to another vice president, goes to a sector president, goes to the CEO. So that's like 9 layers.
About double.
Yeah. You have site leads. I mean, you have a site with 5,000 people. You have a site lead in there. All right, last one. And it's kind of shift from business talk. That's the parent talk, which this will be fun once you have a kid. Are you having a kid yet? We kind of stopped asking.
Whenever we get one, man.
Come on. Do your job, Conley. It's not that hard. It doesn't take any aim. Okay. Um,
I'm not gonna ask on notes for that. Uh,
a lot of jokes. Anyways, focus.
Nah, nah, nah.
He talked about it's the very start of the podcast, and he talked about how he built a computer when he was younger, and he realized how simple it was. Like you look at this computer, it's a big, complicated thing.
No.
That after he realized that he can understand what goes into a computer, it kind of made him think about what else can I build, right? And it kind of took the limit off of his brain in terms of what he can achieve. And then he talked about how um, if his kids wanted something, he made them build it, which I thought was brilliant. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to use that. If you want a new fishing rod, okay, let's build it. Now you're going to understand the pieces. If you want to, and I was trying to think of
Stop
good
building the
examples,
playhouses for the kids. That's a interesting take.
but I
Haven't thought.
liked it. I one of the most interesting things to me is how I apply these things to being a parent, and I'm going to look for ways to say, okay, you can have this thing, but you're going to have to put it together with me.
No, that's a. I didn't take that away. Apply it to like kids, but you know how many things a year do you think you build for your kids?
Oh yeah, well, once a month, once every 2 weeks,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. No, it could
About
be.
10, 20 times on Christmas.
I was thinking the other day when I was looking at my garden stuff, I was like, I know you mentioned you wanted your kids to do a lemonade stand, but I was wondering if you could start them a step further and have them like plant a garden. Like
We planted flowers this year.
they get a row, yeah, and then
We
you
did the soil and
go sell
planted
the
the bulbs.
flowers, go sell the flowers down the street. Put up a stand, sell
Yeah,
flowers
that'd be
at
cool.
5. What time do you go sell flowers? You know, you talk to your kids like, what is the most effective time to go do your stand? Like have
Rush
them
hour
under
home.
that, yeah, right? Like that's a
When you're coming
that's
home late
probably
and you're in trouble with the wife and you need a flower to buy some forgiveness.
that's probably more profitable. Like generally, that would be more profitable than a lemonade stand. You put that at the front of the neighborhood, man.
Mhm.
I would buy it. If I saw kids having a stand of flowers, I'd be a lot more likely to stop and grab that than lemonade.
Yep.
I give them lemonade. Well, I was thinking about that. I was like, that would be a cool like lesson or thing to do because it'd be kind of long term too because they would have to invest in the uh nurturing of their plant.
No, I mean, you're right. I I can't
Anyways,
wait to use it.
back to what you said. Um, I had that exact moment, and it was my first internship. Um, it didn't happen when I was at school, but it was like I came back from my first internship and I started to understand that all these complex systems are just a bunch of simple systems, simple solutions, and they just on top of each other. And that's everything. You look at the most complex software,
Engineering.
and software is the best example. It couldn't be more clear, couldn't be a cooler example. All these complex softwares, one thing, ones and zeros.
Hmm.
It's like, and you just build over it over time, and you see like the evolution of computers. It's like they started at something so robust and simple, and just kept iterating. And it's like
And if
that's
you look at code, it's this massive thing. It's like, oh, but you zoom in on one line. Okay, that doesn't make sense. But you can ask somebody what that action does, right? You can understand that, and then you can understand what that sentence means, and then okay, it's connected to this sentence.
you
Yeah.
know I had that same. I don't know. Have you had that? Did you have that like one point where you like that clicked, and like it wasn't someone telling me. It was like it just clicked in my head.
Um. When so you start to see all these different aspects of business, and then all of a sudden you there's this part on the assembly line. It's this stupid L bracket, right? It's made of titanium. It's machined. It's anodized, and it should be so simple to buy. We ran out of them. We're short on them. It's holding up the line. It's holding up this $1 million line, and the fastest someone can get it to you is in 4 weeks. And you're like, what? What are we doing here? And you figure out the supplier is this mom and pop shop that's about a barnum put 3 CNC machines, and that's what they do, right? And you're like, oh yeah, you could make a manufacturing business. Like that sounds very intimidating, making your own manufacturing business. But then you zoom in on it, you buy some metal, you buy some CNC machines, you buy a anodized tank, and now you can make airplane parts. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
If that is, I feel like the most important thing, and if you were to want to execute something like that in a lot of businesses, is also relationships. Because like you'd be surprised, you could probably know enough people to have these various equipments and objects to be able to like bring them all together and do a whole production of something, right? Like people own those machines like independently, just
Hmm.
and if you network to an extent, like I think you're a lot more likely to find success in an avenue like that if you do build a network, and that's kind of a side note.
To me, the hardest part there is like I feel like right now I have all the skills to go build one of those one-off businesses, right? The manufacturing center, the consulting firm, but I have a family and the risk doesn't trade, right? Because I have to put food on the table. I can't slum it for 6 months or 6 years until it hits big, right? And be a millionaire the rest of my life.
I
I
think if
could
you,
have when I was younger and I
yeah,
had to grind, but I didn't have the knowledge or the resources. There's this like paradox. It
I
doesn't.
think if a group of like two guys or like five guys came up to you and they're like, "Hey, we got this idea. We need you to commit." I think you would be on the edge of your seat, and you'd be putting in the extra hours till you could get to a point where you could jump off the ledge. I feel like if the opportunity presented itself, you'd be there. You could find the time. I maybe I'm wrong, but I think
It's
you would want to.
it would I would very much want to. The one's not the question. It's the does the risk trade? Does the time trade? Like it's this weird catch 22 with being a parent.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of my um. So take a step back. The Ben Patrick episode really changed my life. I cut out like TV after that. I stopped watching TV at night, and I've just been working. And I really think I've looked back, and that like was a pivotal point in my life. It's just
That's
like
crazy.
the fact that he said
I mean, that's
you
an extra 20 hours a week.
It is, and that's what it goes to. And he said, you take out of those the dopamine you get at night is what people end up living for. And if you can find the dopamine in your work and that's what you live for, it's like that's the life you want to live because you're doing that all the time. You're working all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been grinding down that path, and
That's cool.
I feel great with that. Um, oh gosh, where was it going
I've
with
been
it?
really jealous of how you've been able to do that. Just so you know, because that's not something that I can think I could pull off.
I am lucky in the fact that it's the power. It's the amazing thing about software is you can do it with no overhead. It's you
Yeah,
get a computer and
that's
you
right.
can do it no matter
Right.
where
You don't
you're
need
at,
a loan for $500,000 to buy a CNC
and
machine.
that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Man, I was where did I start out with that? Because that was my step back, and I wanted to
The Ben
go.
Patrick, the
Yeah.
yes,
Um, but yeah, no, that I did recognize that as I feel like a turning point, but I wanted to connect it to something, but I lost it
the
anyway.
timeline about before having kids, maybe.
Oh, yeah. So that hit. We take a step back, that hit, and now it's like I see myself having like an 8-year runway till like I really got to start going to games and sporting. And so I got 8 years, like
You
probably
do.
like till we get to that age. I
That's
got
right.
8 years where I have an abundance of time.
To where your first
And
priority
so
can be your career.
that's really helps me with my motivation to
Yeah.
work on those projects. But yeah, no,
It's
that is
weird. It's because I'm at the end. My 8 years is up.
yeah.
It just is.
Are
I
you
feel
eight
like I
years old?
spent it well. I'm really proud of what I did, but it's like this thing where you don't want to go to the next step of life.
Yeah.
It makes you think about time and age, and I don't know. It makes you think about all these things.
Well, I mean, you definitely did it great. Like you did a great job in your hot laps. I wouldn't say you didn't. I think it's obvious you did. Um, and not like you could have done better. I
Yeah.
think that you took a lot of opportunities that you had.
Yeah, like I said, I'm proud of what I did. And
I think
I
you
think we ended in a good spot, but I would just I'll let you know, brace for impact because that transition it's a lot, right? You got to change your identity. You're no longer that person that grinds. Now you're the dad that's present. You know, you you don't get to brag about how cool your job is. You know your job's kind of yeah. You know, there's a lot of things that change kind of all of a sudden. If I'm honest,
yeah, I don't know if I've ever got to brag about how cool my job is, but I guess it's more of the how like yeah. But
it
no,
will be if you keep putting in the hours you're putting in. Your job will turn like overnight. You'll be surprised, and you'll. What do you do? Oh, you made an app. Like you made an app that people know about.
yeah, I mean that's
It'll get
I
there.
taste it. There's blood in the water. I'm just like whether it's this one or five down the line. Hopefully we can iterate at one a year if this one doesn't work out, but I think it can.
That's cool, Conley. That's really cool. I'm proud of you.
Appreciate it.
All right, let's end it there.
Cool. Yeah. Closing thoughts. That it. Thanks for listening.
Yep. Follow podcast, episode 24. See you next
Awesome.
time.
Solid.